So guys, back on the 2015 Outback project car. Today we're going to be doing probably our last repair on the vehicle, which is kind of sad, but it's also a repair we've already done. Nothing is worse than having to do the same repair twice, although that's not quite the case here. In a previous video, one of the first videos on the car, we replaced the CV axle and the hub bearing assembly on the driver's side due to noise in the axle of clicking when turning the wheel, and of a roaring noise from the wheel bearing driving down the road. So after getting everything back together and getting the repair done, I noticed that my noise was not gone. It was only about halved, and that's because the passenger front wheel hub assembly and axle were failed as well. And due to the amount of noise, it was hard for me to pinpoint which side, and apparently the driver's side was slightly louder than the passenger side. But now we still have clicking, turning to the right on the right-hand side of the vehicle. And we have a slight roaring noise from the right front that was masked by how loud the left front was. So now today we get to put an axle and hub bearing assembly and axle seal on the passenger side of the vehicle. So guys, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the repair once again. So guys, before we jump into the repair, big thanks is in order to SubaruPartsDeals.com that graciously sent out the hub bearing assembly and axle for the passenger side repair on the vehicle. Check out SubaruPartsDeals.com, your online retailer for genuine Subaru parts. Easy to navigate website. You can search by model, year, and trim, or you can simply type in your VIN number to easily find the parts you need for your Subaru. Or you can shoot them a call or an email, and their staff will be glad to help you figure out what parts you need for your DIY Subaru repair projects. As a big thanks to you viewers, SubaruPartsDeals.com has offered up a promo code Mr. Subaru in all caps, good for 15% off shipping of your order. SubaruPartsDeals.com, a Subaru genuine certified seller of parts for your Subaru vehicle. Anytime you get ready to do any repair on your Subaru, check them out, price them out. They got some of the best prices out there on Subaru genuine parts. So guys, parts for this repair will need a new axle seal, which part number I don't have offhand because I stock these and they come in bulk bagged without the part number on them. Need a new CV axle nut. Again, stock these as their one-time use. Part number is 902170049. Our hub bearing assembly, which is a 28373AN00D. And of course, our axle assembly, which is just down here, part number 28321AL010. Car is already jacked up and supported on jack stands, so now we need to go ahead and take off our wheel and get into it. The wheel is off. Go ahead and knock off the CV axle nut. Or try to. Come on, little compact. You normally take those off so easily. Make sure our axle isn't seized up in the hub. Nope, slides freely. All right, so now that we got the wheel off, got the CV axle nut off, make sure our axle is freed up. I'm gonna knock off the 12mm bolt, or 12mm headed bolt. Holds a brake line in place onto the strut. Then take a 17mm and take loose the caliper bracket bolts and remove brake caliper and bracket assembly together. One, two. Pull that off of our brake rotor. and hang that up and out of the way on our strut. Pull off our brake rotor. Set that aside. Remove our 12 mil bolts holding our brake dust shield. Or not brake dust shield, brake cooling shield. Or brake rotor shield. And we'll go ahead and pop out our wheel speed sensor. 10 mil here. Pop our clip through. And we'll tuck our sensor up into our spring perch on our strut, just to keep it out of our way. Now we need to take the 14 millimeter pinch bolt loose, pop our ball joint out of the spindle. That way we can fish out the axle. Just like so. A little bit of rust and crust. We'll clean that up in the wire wheel and put some oil on it before we reassemble. So now's the fun part, getting a big long pry bar and popping that ball joint loose. All right, so after getting the ball joint to pop loose from the spindle, go ahead and push your axle out of the hub assembly. Just like so. Now we can get underneath, take our pry bar between the little flat spot, the little ledge under the axle, and just pop it out. Just like so. We can guide the old axle out of the transmission or front differential. So now we're gonna set the spindle back into the ball joint just to kind of stabilize things. I'm gonna reach behind, and we got 4 14 millimeter headed bolts holding the wheel hub assembly in. And our 4 bolts are out. Now hopefully our hub assembly comes out without too much muss and fuss. But why waste time beating and banging on it? We can just hook up our Lyle puller and get it out of our way. that ought to have her. Just like so. And yeah, we had a lot of noise in that one. So now we get a wire brush, clean up the board, get this rust and corrosion out of here, and then we'll be ready to put everything back together, other than jumping under there and replacing that axle seal before we stick our new axle into place. So getting the axle seal out, you just want to get a pry bar under the very lip and pop it out just like so. So new seal is in the install tool. All we gotta do is tap it on in. So after a couple of whacks with mallet, we go around, make sure that the seal is flush and square all the way around, and we are good to install our new axle. Compare new and old axle before sending it home. And we'll put a little bit of oil in here just to help the new one slide in and help prevent a little bit of corrosion. I'm not putting any C's on it, and a lot of guys ask why I don't do more. It's because this car lives in the South now, and there's no salt and no snow and no corrosion to worry about, really. So all cleaned up, lubed up, ready to install the new hub bearing assembly. Couple of whacks, get it started. Pull it in the rest of the way with the bolts. 14 millimeter. And just run them in, snug them up. Take our torque wrench and torque all four to 65 Newton meters. And now that's done, we can go ahead and focus on putting our new axle in. And just like so, all you gotta do is line it up with the splines and slam it home till it clicks into place. And there's the axle fully seated. That's the gap you'll have. All right, so now we gotta snake our new axle into our new hub bearing assembly. And line up our ball joint. Go ahead and put our wheel speed sensor back in. put our ball joint pinch bolt in. Just went ahead and grabbed a brand new one instead of using the old rusty one. And we'll torque it to 50 Newton meters. Now we'll install the front brake shield. Then we'll install our front brake rotor. Made sure to clean up both the front and rear mating surface with our hub buddy. Shot a brake parts cleaner just in case we got any greasy fingers on this. Now we'll swing our brake caliper assembly down. Torquing to 120 Newton meters on the brakes. Reinstall the brake hose bracket. And we'll install our new CV axle nut. And we need to torque that to 220 Newton meters. We'll put our tool in there to hold our brake rotor, keep everything from spinning. And as always, you don't skip this step because this sets preload on the wheel bearing. Impact it on there too tight, you'll burn your bearing up. Too loose, and you'll have just as bad of a time. And there you go. Now we gotta do is take a punch chisel and stake it to the end of the axle. And just like so, mechanically lock the nut to the axle. Now what we gotta do is reinstall our wheel and torque our lugs to 120 Newton meters. All right, guys, and that does it for the video. Big thanks once again to SubaruPartsDeals.com for sending me the axle and the hub bearing assembly for this repair. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.